just really interesting listening to what you were saying. When I spoke with the Mayor about this back in January, he described it as TfL wanting, not unreasonably, he said, to get value for money for what it's spending on traffic enforcement. So the sort of beginning of all of this came out of a desire to do things more affordably. But what it feels like is these PCSOs, many of them, as Assembly Member Roberts has just been saying, have got 20 years of experience working for the Met, and so they seem to be just caught in a breakdown of relations between TfL and the Met. Now, what I just wanted to double check was you've mentioned several times this money that you're waiting to come out. Hold on, I've written about it in
the neighbourhood policing.
The neighbourhood policing, exactly, funding, and it almost seemed like you were suggesting that there might be enough that maybe is there any opportunity that this decision could be unravelled, that these workers could avoid being tupied over to a private company? It just seems extraordinary that people who've been in the public sector for 20 years working for the police, because of a contractual arrangement with TfL that happened to be providing the funding for tasks that seem to have only been taking up a relatively small portion of their time while they were doing their work as PCSOs, it seems extraordinary that they can then find themselves working for a private company basically doing parking enforcement, which is a very different job. What do you think that neighbourhood funding might provide some elasticity to enable those officers to be taken back into the Met?
We don't currently know, because we don't know the conditions in which that grant will have on it. So that's what we're waiting to find out. I think it's important to state that you're right, Assembly Member Russell, that this conversation is framed in two budgetary contexts, and that those decisions haven't been made in that framework. We'll continue, as I've said, to discuss this issue as we have. I think it's important to recognise that there has been, I think, about 18 months worth of conversation between the Metropolitan Police and the TfL on the whole of the service level agreement, and there's been a lot of negotiations in that space, and primarily positively done. So we will continue to look at this issue, we'll continue to talk to it, and happy to provide any information we can on it.
When are you going to know about that neighbourhood funding?
I think from last year, I think we obviously set the budget, and then it was a couple of months after that.
So 2 months from when the budget was set?
I'm basing that on memory of what happened last year.
So we could be looking at it coming within a month?
Maybe longer, I reckon. Because obviously we're talking about the National Police Grant for the whole country. So those conditions are going to be worked through, and then how the Metropolitan Police Service can apply that to their police service. Okay,
and so just to be really clear, if that money comes through and it does enable more PCSOs to be employed in the Met, because I understand there's a gap of 6 months before the contract starts with the private supplier. So does that mean that there is any hope for those 63 PCSOs who are worried about their future and losing their status as PCSOs?
Obviously, they've been offered the 2P arrangements in terms of going forward on that, and that's a decision that they need to take. And then we also need to have the national policing guarantee conditions come through. I don't want to be giving people hope on something that's not my decision to make, but there are things to work through.
Okay, thank you very much. That's really helpful, and I look forward to finding out when that money comes through.